There are a few winners in the budget, so why was your sector chosen?
Well, I mean, this is something we've been advocating for a really long time, and it's something that's really common all over the world. There are more than 20 other countries that have incentive programs like this. And once Australia introduced theirs, it really became a critical time for game developers because we were seeing, you know, such a bleeding of talent and skills and investment out of the country. So it really became sort of a now or never time for the industry.
Well, let's just set the scene then. So how big is this opportunity for New Zealand?
It's incredible, really. Our industry has grown almost 30% every year. We were worth more than New Zealand wool last year.
Okay.
And if you look at other countries that have similar programs, for instance, you know, if you look at Finland, which is about the same size as New Zealand, their industry is worth about $6 billion every year. And that's something that we could easily achieve.
So globally, the industry is worth about 180 billion US, and it's bigger than music and movies put together. Do you think that people realise that opportunity is out there?
No, I don't think so. I think that a lot of people, when they think about games, you know, they think about the guy playing Call of Duty in his mom's basement as being the only place that games are really relevant. But you know, in reality, games are much more ubiquitous than that. Everybody is playing games from Wordle to Call of Duty. Games are used for education and medical rehab and job training simulations. It's just a much larger industry than I think people realize.
Are you saying that the gaming industry is beset by stereotypes? You're talking about the guy in the basement, mum's place, and games are just for playing. I mean, is that holding the industry back, that perception?
Definitely, definitely. I think it's, you know, a lot of people aren't realizing that it's more about more than just entertainment. People are using games to connect with each other, especially, you know, when we were separated because of COVID and there were big lockdowns. People used games as an opportunity to connect with each other. And in truth, you know, more than 50% of people who play games are actually women. And the fastest growing demographic in games is women over 35.
Wow, okay. So in New Zealand, though, how big is it? I mean, how much do you actually bring to the economy at the moment? How many studios are there?
Yeah, so there are about 75 studios in New Zealand that employ about 1,200 people. And last year, we generated a little over $400 million in...
And in context, I mean, you say it's bigger than wool, but in context of the industry, how big is that in other areas versus other commodities?
Yeah, I mean, it really depends. In the tech sector, we're relatively small, but we have the potential, given our growth, to be $1 billion industry by 2026.
Are you going to deliver on that?
We certainly hope so. This incentive will go a long way to making that possible.
Okay, so let's talk about that incentive. The budget announcement means that for every dollar spent, you can get 20 cents back on the development. But as you mentioned, Australia has a bigger offering of between 30 to 45 cents in the dollar. How is this 20 cents going to compete with the Aussies?
Well, I mean, it can't really compete, you know, apples to apples, right? Australia created an incentive program that is one of the most attractive worldwide, and they knew that, right? That was part of a sweeping tech package. But that incentive was always developed to bring, you know, large U.S. subsidiaries to Australia. And our incentive has never had that as a goal. Ours has always been, how can we enable Kiwis to be competitive in the global market?
But this isn't going to stem the flow of game developers to Australia if they get a better deal over here, is it? It's too little, too late.
I mean, I think there are a lot of studios that have already opened shop in Australia. It remains to be seen whether we can entice them back, but we do hope that this will, you know, deter other studios from considering leaving and help to bring back a lot of the really critical infrastructure like investment and talent building that was at risk of leaving if we didn't do an incentive.
Okay. I mean, we asked Grant Robertson the same question about, will this be enough to stop studios leaving and build the industry here? And this is what he said.
Yeah, look, this is a start, and I think it's really important that we do what we can to help protect what's a really important sector. I mean, $400 million for GDP. The Australians are competing heavily here for our talent. Our rebate scheme's a little bit more open than the Australian one. It can be used for salaries. It can be used in a way that's slightly different. But we recognise that if we want to compete in this sector, we've got to be a player. We're getting really positive reaction to this, but I'm sure over time you'll see this rebate evolve, a little bit like the way that film subsidies have.
Well, I just want to pick up how he ended there, how it's going to evolve in the way that the film subsidies have. It sounds like you're going to get more. Do you understand what he's referring to there?
I mean, we certainly hope so. That would definitely make the scheme more competitive, and we're seeing countries all over the world increase the size of their schemes, and that's because they're recognizing, you know, the economic opportunity that games provide.
So the film industry, if it has a production of major economic impact, it can get up to 25%. Would that be enough?
Yeah, we would love to see more.
Okay, wouldn't we all?
Yes.
If we want to grow the industry here, you said that we've got like 1,200 people, but how are we going to get the extra game developers? They're in hot demand, aren't they?
They are globally. I mean, this is one of the reasons that we've seen so many skills and talented people move to Australia. But New Zealand has all of the infrastructure needed to build an incredibly sustainable and healthy pipeline. I mean, almost every New Zealand university has created a games program. Massey just announced the new National Academy for the Arts in Screen Arts. The University of Canterbury has the Digital Screen Campus.
Right.
So there's been a lot of investment in education in this space.
What about dollars, though? I mean, so you've got the government announcing in the budget that they're going to kick another $30 million into a startup fund. But what about the whole investment ecosystem? Are they willing to back you in this?
Absolutely. They're very eager. Actually, before the announcement of the Australian incentive, we were finally starting to see sort of traditional tech investors looking in this space and saying, hey, I want to be here. How do I get in? And I think now that we have this incentive here, we're going to see a lot of those people coming back, whereas before they were looking at Australia only.
OK. There's another disruption on the horizon, though, and that's generative artificial intelligence. It's here, it writes code, it writes words, it generates artwork. It's probably going to make videos soon. Surely that is going to be a major impact on your industry.
Yeah, I mean, I think generative AI is going to impact any industry that exists on the internet, right? And, you know, games is a part of that, so we're definitely going to be impacted. But I think ultimately, like so many other innovations, this becomes a tool that we can use to help us build better products. At the end of the day, I think it's really important that we strongly consider regulation, not just for games, but for everybody in tech. OK, you're behind regulation. Chelsea Rapp, thanks for coming on to the show, and congratulations on being a budget winner, one of the few. OK.